Good afternoon. We mentioned yesterday that in Israel, the custom is to light the menorah outside of the house. And outside of Israel, we usually light the menorah inside the house. So let's learn today how one would light the menorah outside of the house. We're in the Mishnah Berurah, Taf Reish Ayin Aleph, Zayin, which is 671-7. Mitzvah lahanicho betefach hasamach lepesach mismol. It is a mitzvah to put the menorah within a tefach, close to the left side of the door. Now a tefach is this distance, so within that distance to the door, which Rav Moshe Feinstein says is 3.54 inches, so it should be that close, and it should be, when you're facing the door, it should be on the left. Why? Why should it be on the left? So therefore, you'll have, when you walk into the house, the mezuzah, which we have on the door, is always on the right, and you'll have the menorah on the left, so you'll be walking through two mitzvos in your house. V'im ein mezuzah b'Pesach. If you don't have a mezuzah on your door, let's say you just moved into the house, or for whatever reason, you're just renting for a short time, whatever it is, so then manicho biyamin. Then you put the menorah on the right. So if you have a mezuzah, you put the menorah on the left, and if you do not have a mezuzah for whatever reason, you put the menorah on the right. V'im henicho bedelas atzmo, if you put it in the doorway itself, yanichanu mechatzio shel kanisa litzad smol, then it should be in the left side of the door. Sounds like if you have a long door, like a wide door, which we don't really have so much, maybe some places do, then you would put on the left side in the door itself. Now says the Rama, Umiyu bizman hazeh shekulanu madlikin bifnim. The Rama writes, nowadays that we light inside, ve'ein heker lebnei reshus harabim, and there's no klal, ein lachush kol kach im ein madlikin betefach hasamach lepesach. He says, for those that the custom is to light inside, you don't have to put it close to the door. Umikol makom, nevertheless, haminig lahadlik betefach hasamach lepesach kamo b'yamehem. The custom is to light within a tefach of the door, like they did in their days. Ve'ein l'shalas, and one should not change. Ela im kein rabim b'nei abayis, unless you have many people in the house. She'adif yoser v'lahadlik ki'im lahadlik. If there's many people in the house, you should light in the house. Ki'im b'makom miyuchad mala'ariv haneres biyachad ve'ein heker kamaneres madlikin. But he says that, so this is something we mentioned earlier, according to the Ramah, that everybody in the house lights a menorah, meaning the children and the father. So you have a lot of lights. So when you light the menorah, you have to make sure that they're separate, so it doesn't just look like a whole bunch of lights. You can actually see the separate lights from each separate menorah. Umikol makom yizaru shelo lahadlik b'makom shemadlikin haneres kol hashana. But you should be careful not to light the Hanukkah lights in a place where you light candles the whole year. Ki az lo yeh heker klal, because then there won't be any distinguishing factor to show that these are Hanukkah lights. If you light the menorah in the same place that you just light your regular candles the whole year, then you can't tell that the candles are for Hanukkah. V'af ki ein heker rak libnei abayis, and even though the differentiation is only for the people in the house, mikol makam heker k'tzas mi aboy. Nevertheless, you need to have some sort of distinguishing factor. So let's see the Mishnah Berurah, who's going to explain what we just learned. Okay, so we said to put the menorah outside of the house. She'im yarchikana lahalan min pesach eina nikar shabalabayis nichosham. If you were to place the menorah further than from a tefach, about 3.5 inches from the doorway, then it's not clear that the owner of the house is the one who lit the menorah. LePesach bein im hahanachahu al pesach habayis or al pesach hachatzer. This applies whether we're talking about lighting to the entrance of the house or lighting to the entrance of the courtyard. If you remember, we said that if you have a courtyard, then you would light the menorah between the courtyard and the public thoroughfare, whereas if your door goes right into the public thoroughfare, then you would light by your door. V'im ein, if you don't have a mezuzah, the chol midah de mitzvah yamin adif, because he says anytime we do a mitzvah, we said if there's no mezuzah on the door, you should put the menorah on the right. And the reason is because anytime we do a mitzvah, it goes on the right. Va'od de'ika pirsumei nisa tfei shehakol ponim l'tzad yamin. And there's more of publicizing the miracle because people tend to turn to the right. V'menicha hadabus asma kairesh sif mechatza shel kanisa hainu makam hadela shenichnas misham letoch habayis, the place of the door where you go in, yichalkenu l'shnayim. ובחצי הנוטה לצד שמאל, שהוא נגד המזוזה שהמזומן בימין, שם יניחנו, ומשהו מזה דיוכל להניחו בכל שטח, או חצי, עין בתא, שדייתו דלמייס, עובר להחמר להניחו הנרס בצד שמאל, בקצה האחרון סמוך לקייסו. So he writes that if you put the mezuzah the menorah actually inside the door, according to some, you could technically put it as long as it's closer to the left side, but the best thing to do is to put it as close as possible to the left side of the door. Now, all of that was for people who live in Israel, and that still practice lighting the menorah outside. So if you live in Israel, you light the menorah as close as possible to the left entrance of your door that goes into the public thoroughfare, so that when you walk in the house, you'll be walking between the mezuzah and the menorah. And from what we mentioned yesterday, one should also be careful that the menorah is above 3 tvachim, so that's 3.54 times 3, and below 10 tvachim, below 35.4 inches, if possible. Now, we in America usually light inside. So the Mishnah Berurah writes here, Mikol makam haminig kedei sheikanis. Oh, we're not up to that yet. Sorry. Kedei sheikanis ben shtei mitzvahs ve'ein l'shanos. Mikol makam. Oh, so this is where he writes it. For us, we light inside. Im yesh lo chalon samach l'reshus harabim. If you have a window that faces a public thoroughfare, nachon yoser sheinechanu sham. It's more proper to put it there. Kedei sheyeh heker lebnei reshus harabim v'isparsim hanes, so that it should be distinguishable for the people in the public place, the people walking by your home, see the menorah in the window, and there's more of a publicizing the miracle. So those who light at home, which is us in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Israel, we light in a window which faces the public place, so we can publicize the miracle. Just he concludes, Im lo b'makom d'shchicha hazeka, but only in a place where there is not a likelihood of damage which could happen. If by putting your menorah in your window, it's going to cause anti-Semites to ruin your property, then you don't have to do that. And this was it was a big fear back in the day. Thank God we're much safer now. Although yesterday there was a news story, for those that follow, that a dead pig carcass was thrown in front of a rabbi's house in Lakewood. So we do have to be careful nowadays. We can't let our guard down from anti-Semitic attacks. But back in the day, especially this time of year, it wasn't uncommon for anti-Semites to go and harass and maybe even kill Jews. So if by putting your mezuzah in the window would cause that kind of damage, one would not have to do that. But thank God nowadays we really don't have to worry about that as much. So if one lives in the United States, the best thing is to put the mezuzah in the window so that people passing by can see it. And if one lives in Israel, one puts the mezuzah, I keep saying mezuzah, sorry, not menorah. And if one lives in Israel, it's best to place the menorah on the left side of the door coming in so that one walks between the mezuzah and the menorah.